Saturday, July 3rd. Saturday, July 3rd. Entrance into the Pueblo of Taos, the Royal Army staying 1 league from the shore of its river in order not to damage the cornfields. Again, we're being respectful of the precarious Pueblo, of the Taos Pueblo, making sure we don't damage the cornfields. This actually goes on for about 2,000 words, 3 or 4 pages, so stay tuned. This is day number 4 of the Entrada of Don Diego de Vargas. Day number 4, July 3rd. It's only going to be 4 or 5 more days. Only four or 5 more days, and De Vargas is going to be the first European in Castilla County. So July 3rd, Saturday, 1694. On the 3rd day of the present month of this date and year, I, said Governor and Captain General, passed the night in view of the said Pueblo of Piqueras. Although near the said camp, the rebels made a fire by means of which they could let us know that they would come in pursuit of us, and that they would be in sight, it being a distance of 10 leagues to the Pueblo of Taos, and the road very dangerous, 8 leagues of wooded mountains, and sierra of greatest danger, which could slow the passage. I took into consideration the increasing numbers of this enemy who could attain part of their desire in this region, which many of the soldiers and some leaders of the illustrious Cabildo pointed out. To all of these I responded that I had set out for supplies, and that I would buy them from said Villa Taos by purchase or by bullets, and the case was up to His Divine Majesty, whose divine law I was defending, by purchase or by bullets. And the Royal Army, going with the orderly and military discipline I arrived with it, having gone with the order and military discipline of the Royal Army, we arrived, and I was freed from said risk, having succeeded in entering in view of the Pueblo of Taos at 4 in the afternoon, a distance of 1 short league from it on the bank and on the island of its river, because it was a place outside the cornfields of this Pueblo, which would secure it from the harm the horses and mules could do. I ordered the Royal Army to set up camp, and I went to the said Pueblo with a squadron of 40 men, and on entering into the Pueblo I found it abandoned, although there were crosses recently placed at their houses and storerooms, and they also had the crosses in most of the cornfields where we passed, which made me and all the rest very happy, for it meant to me a sign and a demonstration establishing peace, and because they had retreated, it was not to fight, but out of fear for their transgression, to let them know for my pardon, to assure them pardon. I then ordered that no one should climb up to a single house, and they should put in the 2 plazas of the 2 villages 2 big crosses, returning to them by means of them the big crosses the desire that they could have, and assuring them by the crosses of the said reason the pardon, and of receiving them in peace. I also ordered that the captain and Sargento Mayor should take a cross and put it at a distance of half a league on the road to the Sierra, on whose side fresh tracks of said rebels and Taos natives showed that they had retreated and fortified themselves on the mountain and narrow canyon, because it was safe ground for them. On previous times when they had rebelled, they had taken refuge in this well-chosen place and spent a long time there, so it was necessary to return to reconquer them by force of arms in order to reconquer and reduce them to their Pueblo. As is well known, as some of the older men of the camp related, and I stayed at this camp in Pueblo waiting for said captain, as he went with some of the soldiers to set up and raise the cross, and in the middle of this road he found a large band of Apache Indians with their captain, with whom they shook hands, and as a sign of friendship they then laid down their arms, and having seen the captain and Sargento Mayor Antonio Giorgi, and that they asked for me, said Governor and Captain General, he told them that I had stayed in the Pueblo, and the reason for my coming, and the Apache Indian also told him that he had come with his rancheria camp, and that they were from the plains and had come to trade with the Pueblo, as was the custom. And Captain Antonio Giorgi immediately sent information to me by a soldier, and a result of this I went with a squadron of up to 10 men, and having gone to said place, I then found the Apaches, who shook hands and gave me many embraces, and Don Juan de Ye, the governor of the Pecos, who was accompanying me with even greater rejoicing as their friend and acquaintance who he was. They, the Apaches, said they're in the Pueblo of Taos when the news came from the Tiwas of the Rio Grande Valley and the Curis that I was on my way down to their Pueblo. And at once the Taos left it, and although they, the Apache, told them not to, they could not detain them. That they, Taos, might not think badly of their, the Apache friendship was the reason why they had gone with them, but with a difference. The Taos had gone into the Sierra and Embudo, where at other times they, the Apache, had remained at the entrance of the Sierra, where I, said Governor and Captain General, would see where his camp was. And the Apache captain of his own free will carried the said Holy Cross, which he had, as has been said, to place at a halfway point inside of the Sierra, saying that he could, by virtue of that assurance, Francisco Pacheco, governor of Taos, who is near the entrance, could come down. And so I, said Governor and Captain General, went with the Apache, and only 15 soldiers followed me. Nevertheless, I went up to the entrance of said Sierra, less than a pistol shot away, where the captain of the Apaches, having gone in advance, Governor Pacheco with many of the Taos was already. Governor Pacheco with many of the Taos was already. And I saw there the camp of the Apaches of the plains, who were recognized by Don Juan de Ye, the Pecos, who acted as interpreter with Governor Pacheco. And although Don Juan de Ye used forceful words and clear arguments for his desire to show safety, the confidence with which he, Pacheco, and his people could come down to see me, since they had already had experience from the time of my first Entrada and conquest of their Pueblo in the month of October of '92, the arguments of the aforesaid Don Juan de Ye were not sufficient. He acted with such kindness as will be known from the tragic outcome with which they repaid his trust, that they were his friends. And although I, said Governor and Captain General, carried by impulse and fervent Catholic zeal, without considering the risk to my life and the small numbers of men mentioned, left said line, going near some rock cliffs where Governor Pacheco was, after his people had surrounded me on both sides to seize me, which my few men watched carefully. Nevertheless, they did not dare to. And I, realizing that the sun had already set and that my words were not effective, took leave of them with much affection and friendliness, an indication of my desire, saying to Pacheco I would await him with his people the next day in their Pueblo, where I would go from the river where I had left the royal army and troops, so they would not damage the cornfields with the horses and mules. The aforesaid Don Juan repeated my words and reassured them, since he was such a good friend of Pacheco. He, Pacheco, with treacherous and pretended friendliness, told Don Juan de Ye for his consolation and that of the Taos natives, his friends, as they were the nation of the Pecos, and that they were asking him, Don Juan Ye, to spend the night with him, Pacheco, in order to talk at leisure about that which he would say about me, said Governor and Captain General, and of the Spaniards, in presence of his people of the Taos nation, and they would decide according to what he would say to them whether or not to come and see me, and also to go down to their Pueblo, as they said, and I ordered. And then Governor Don Juan de Ye, with more joy than if he were entering into his own house, wholeheartedly agreed to stay. And all those Sargento Juanrez de Caceres and the Sargento Mayor Francisca de Ania Almazan told him that he should watch well what he was doing, not to put himself in danger because some misfortune could befall him. He replied that he was going in safety. He was going in safety and had confidence in Governor Pacheco, his friend. And said Sargento came to me, said Governor and Captain General, to ask whether they should take from him the arquebus he was carrying, which was mine, and the mule. So they're going to take away his gun and his mule. Don Juan de Ye is going to go talk to Pacheco, and they're going to take away his gun, his mule. They're going to take everything away from him, which this makes no sense. I said they should let Don Juan go without showing a sign of distrust, and I went with said Sargento the short distance where Don Juan de Ye was already dismounted, and expressed to him the reply and warning mentioned above concerning the danger, to which he replied to me that he was secure and content. He took off the spurs and the gunpowder bags from his waist, handed them over handed him over along with his mule and cloak to said Sargento with his arquebus and shield, telling him to take care of them for him, and he took leave of me, giving me an embrace in his hand, and did likewise with the others. The Taos were watching this attentively along with their governor Pacheco, to whom I repeated that he remained with God, and that with Don Juan de Ye, I would expect him in my tent early in order to give him chocolate. And I left this place, taking leave of the Apaches, with whom, since we were their friends, I presume that what I said gave Don Juan great confidence and satisfaction to spend the night and stay with the Taos, going with pleasure and concern about what was referred to on the way to the Pueblo. I found out that most of the Royal Army and troops were on their way to overtake me to aid and assist me. The Reverend Father Procurator Fray Francisco Farfan, good old Farfan, who had come voluntarily on the said campaign, had gone to relate the danger I was in, and therefore with speed they set out. I gave them thanks and told them what had occurred. We spent the night with the protection and necessary precautions against any mishap which one could expect, since we were now in the middle of so many enemies, and so that these said Entrada may be of record, and what was referred to in it, I signed it with the leaders and officers of war who were there present, and with the assistance of my Secretary of Government and War, who also signed. Don Diego de Vargas Zapata Lux and Ponce de Leon, Antonio Jorge Diego Arias de Quiros, Antonio de Balurerde, before me, Alfonso Real de Aguilar, Secretary of Government and War. Secretary of Government and War. So, January 3rd, 1694, one day before Independence Day, which wouldn't happen for another 80 years. But ever since the arrival of the Picurious, all was ominous. Hundreds of Picurious men, women, and children fled, leaving no one to deal with fire, smoke, signal day and night. So the Picurious Pueblo had evacuated. And then he goes on to the Taos Pueblo. Taos Pueblo, this is where Pope had organized, and this is 1694, so 2 years after the Reconquest, 14 years after the Revolution. So Taos would be the troublemakers. Taos would be full of rebels and troublemakers. And so he's going to go to Taos, the Pueblo Taos, and, you know, a lot of different things happen, but it's going to end off with Don Juan de Ye. And I'll just talk about this because this makes no sense to me. Don Juan de Ye is the Native American leader of Pecos Pueblo. And so they're the Native American of you're going to beep on me? So he's the leader of Pecos Pueblo, and he, you know, is just friendly to the Spaniards. And then he's got this, you know, he's the leader of the Pecos Pueblo, and he's got an opportunity to talk to Pacheco, the leader of the Taos Pueblo, and he says that he's going to do it, and apparently he's real confident and seems to have no big deal about it, but as he's going with, you know, Pacheco, Don Juan de Ye acts like he don't need his gun, he don't need his mule, and so it just, that part to me seems really fucking weird. He's about to go with the enemy, and he's supposed to talk about the Spanish and this and that, and he was so comfortable, but as he's going with them, they take away his fucking gunpowder, his mule, his gun. They take away every fucking thing. Oh, you want to go talk with him? Okay, well, we're going to take everything that you got. Well, that doesn't sound like the Spanish had any confidence in Don Juan de Ye whatsoever. And then we're going to, you know, later on I read later that Don Juan de Ye, you know, we're going to assume that he got killed by Pacheco, but I don't see why we would assume that. If anything, it almost seems like the Spaniards were saying that Don Juan de Ye was, you know, securely in the pockets of Pacheco, so just give him back to Pacheco. Or Don Juan de Ye was sacrificing himself, you know, so the Spaniards could get themselves some fucking cornmeal. Which, that seems, you know, what a futile fucking sacrifice. What a futile sacrifice. He didn't have to do that. Apparently, it didn't seem like it. It didn't seem like he had to do that. And then he's going to wait for the next morning because he had expected him to come back down. So, you know, to me, a couple things could have happened. To me, let's assume the story on its face is as it says. So, if the story on its face is as it says, then that means we're going to leave Don Juan de Ye to go talk to Pacheco, and then he doesn't come back down, and we don't go get him, and we take away his gun and his mule and every fucking thing else. So if he has all the confidence in the world, then, you know, perhaps they're best fucking friends, and the Spanish are thinking that he's going to side with him. Or you're going to go be with the Pacheco's people, you're going to be with the Taos Pueblo people, fine, you can do that, but you're not taking our mule and gunpowder and gun. So we're going to send him to Pacheco's people, though, without a fucking gun. So basically, he's completely at their mercy. Power comes from the barrel of a gun, and so therefore, by walking into the Taos Pueblo without a gun, he's completely naked and would have to do whatever the fuck that they wanted to do. So he could have got killed. Maybe, you know, he had a change of heart. Maybe they changed his mind. Maybe they were friends. Maybe he sacrificed himself. But it's not clear to me what happened. But later on, it does seem that Vargas seems to think that Don Juan de Ye definitely died, and he gives his gun and gunpowder and all the stuff to his son. And then later on, his son is, they catch his son involved in trying to stir up the pot and trying to get people to overthrow him. So clearly the son thought that Don Diego de Vargas had something to do with the death of his father. You know, Don Juan de Ye. What happened to Don Juan de Ye? Nobody knows. He went with Governor Pacheco one night, and we were supposed to believe Vargas and that it was all kosher and all on the up and up, but why'd you take his gun and mule away? Why didn't he come back the next fucking day? And then why does his son think you fucking killed him? So, yeah, he was wanting to give him some chocolate, you know, Don Juan de Ye, you know, I want him in my tent early in the morning, and I'm going to give him some chocolate. But they stayed till the afternoon, and nothing happened. So they left.